Hello and welcome back to another episode of Swinging at Shins, first episode of the year of 2024. Glad to be back. I hope you guys are glad to have us back in this small hiatus that we had. It was a nice little holiday break. Today, you have hosts myself, Aaron, and Woodsy. Woodsy, how are you doing? How was your break?
It was a good break. I mean, top of the table doesn't really get better than that for my club. So yeah, no complaints, no complaints at all.
Personally, I'd like to share this real quick. I have my Ellie, my girlfriend, her family does a Secret Santa. I got to grab this real quick. It's around my other monitor, and her cousin's husband got me short on the stick. He got me this, and I know it's kind of hard to see on the reflection, but it's a Jack Grealish signed by the side here photo, and I'm like, dude, I have never had the biggest smile on my face with such shock and awe. I didn't expect this, obviously. It's a Secret Santa. It was incredible. So I want to say shout out to Adam. Thank you for that gift. It was wild. Didn't expect that. He also got me an Aston Villa flag, which I didn't currently have, but do now. So super appreciate that one. I have another gift too. That was my phone that just hit the floor, so that's cool. I have another gift coming in from my girlfriend's father. He made it didn't come in until probably about now anyway. A signage post, metal that said "Swinging at Shins" on it too. So whenever that comes in and I get it, I'll also share that. Thank you, Barry, for whenever that comes in. But yeah, I'd say aside from Villa being at the second on the table, I had a pretty good break in Christmas. So let's get to it. Let's get to the new year. Let's get to the table rundown here. For those of you who have been paying attention, this is nothing new. But for people who haven't, this top four is kind of interesting. And we'll run down through the whole table because why not? It's new year, new me. Liverpool sit first. They currently have 45 points. Aston Villa, number 2, with 42 points. Man City have a game in hand. They've only played 19 matches out of the allotted 20. They sit third with 40 points. Arsenal, with a lot of hopes that they had backing after last season, sit fourth with 40 points. They are just behind on goal differential. Sitting fifth, we've kind of slept on them a little bit. They did nod off a little. Actually, we didn't really sleep on them. They had a lot of high hopes. I'm talking about Spurs here. They have 39 points. They sit fifth. Really, who we've been sleeping on is West Ham United sitting sixth. So they have 34 points, sitting sixth. They're ahead of Brighton and Hove Albion and Manchester United set 7th and 8th, separated by goal differential. Ninth is Newcastle with 29 points. They're having a very injury-ridden season. So once they get a lot of their players back, I expect them to start creeping back up the table. Sitting 10th, as much as we all love it and love seeing it, is Chelsea with 28 points. And they have also 28 points as Wolves, only split by goal differential. They're 11th. Sitting 12th, a really hot team that's been playing really well lately is Bournemouth. They're with 25 points is sitting in 12th. 13th is Fulham with 24 points. 14th is Crystal Palace with 21 points. Forest sitting 15th with 20 points. Brentford, bro, have lost 5 in a row. That's pretty bad. They sit 19th. Oh, I'm sorry. They sit 16th with 19 points. Got a little mixed up here. Everton, with the points deduction that they had, 10-point deduction, sits 17th with 16 points. So realistically, they would be up in 12th if they didn't have that 10-point deduction with the FFP. And, well, that's their fault. There's nothing you can do about that. 18th will be Luton Town sitting with 15 points, Burnley sitting 19th with 11 points, and to round out your table is Sheffield United at the bottom of the pile with a single digit of 9 points. Not even double digits. Any surprises here?
Not really. I mean, I think maybe the biggest surprise would probably end up being Newcastle. Obviously, with the injuries they've had, you understand why they are where they are.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but overall, I mean, I still think if they get somewhat healthy the second half of the year, I could easily see them make a run for a Europa League spot. I had them as the fourth best team when healthy. I had them as possibly the fourth best team in the league. Still think even you give them one or two or maybe even three of those guys back that are big key cogs. Nick Pope has been out for a while. He'll be back in about a month. You've had the injuries to the center backs and the fullbacks. I mean, Botman just came back. He was out for 2.5 months. They've got a lot of weird injuries there. Obviously, the Tonali suspension too. That's probably the most surprising team to me, given the suspension. I think that was a blow to them, and the injuries are just piling on top of that.
Agreed.
Because I really don't think they planned for a season without their club record signing. It's kind of something you don't really plan for, but.
Okay. There's two things you don't plan for: suspensions and injuries. There are players that do get injured more frequently and are listed as injury prone, so you kind of have to bear that weight when you bring them in. But the suspension for one of your biggest signings, your club record signing, you're not expecting that.
The only other team I would say surprised me out of anything would be your Aston Villa. Did not have them as the second best team in the table halfway through the year. Would have never guessed that. Top 5, top 6, absolutely. Sure. To have them second, sitting 3 points off the top, never would have guessed that. So that's definitely something that I think is really surprised me. Other than that, I think it's been pretty straightforward. The league so far, this is roughly about where I figured a lot of the teams would end up being. So and other than that, I mean, I think it's a pretty damn good, fun, interesting season outside of the refereeing mistakes every week. So it is a pretty good season so far.
To be fair, the refereeing mistakes have made our job quite easier, and I don't even think this is a job because a job implies that we're getting paid, and that it's. I can't think of the right word. A drag, and this is not a drag.
No.
I think that
good content is what they give us. They give us good content.
They give us content. That's it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest. I have 3, and you've already taken one, so it's Villa sitting second. Burnley, as bad as they've been, I think kind of surprised me because they have had most of that talent, and Sheffield United, but I think Burnley's somebody who surprised me how bad they have been, and they kind of just seem like they now have rebuilt for pretty much yo-yoing at this point. And Brentford have been terrible. I know they have some injuries going on, and I know Ivan Toney, their biggest goal scorer, was suspended. He's currently not suspended anymore. In fact, behind closed doors against a U23 team, he scored a hat trick, which he should be doing. That team has been surprisingly bad and very leaky. And I wonder, with David Raya going and missing Ivan Toney at the same time, have really just started to compound, and the scouting hasn't been quite as good as prior seasons, and now it's starting to show a little bit. So they need to pick it up. I don't know if they'll sell Toney in the wintertime. They're going to get their most money with selling Toney in the winter, but they need to stay up. Their number one goal is staying up. So, and they're not far from the bottom. They're only 4 points off the bottom.
I think you're spot on actually. 'Cause that's a good point because and let's go back to the Tony issue here because
Hmm.
that's the one that for me if he was healthy, it's a whole different Brentford team. They're so much
Sure.
more versatile with him up front. You have him and you have Mbomo next to each other playing dual
Yep.
strikers, or you can have Mbomo on the wing, the right wing, and Tony going down the middle and Wissa on the other end, and it
Oh
opens the
yeah.
whole team up for what they can
So
do offensively.
dynamic.
So
Yep.
it's a way different team than what we're witnessing now. Um, but the thing about selling Tony, I kind of agree with what you're saying there because obviously you sell Tony in this window, it's gonna be to a team that's real desperate. Obviously the one that's right in our face right now is Arsenal, desperate need of a striker, can't really score goals right now. Even they can outplay you and still not score. It's an interesting conundrum that they have right now
Yeah. Yeah.
at this point. So I could see them going for him, but the thing is, if I'm Brentford, I need goals. I need goals, and I'm not gonna sell my guy now. The thing is, though, he's 28. He hasn't played in 9 months, and they're asking for 100 million pounds. You would need a really desperate club to meet that
Hmm.
valuation. So I could see 70 million, 60 million, something around there. That's more realistic. This 100 million pound number that's out there, I think, is basically Brentford trying to deter everybody from going after him and say, hey, you better consider other options because this
Sure.
guy right now, this is what he's going to cost you. And to be honest with you, one, it wouldn't surprise me if somebody was dumb enough to go for him at that price. I don't think he's a 100 million pound striker. I don't think he's a 70 million pound striker either. And that's the number I just brought up. So I think it's one of those things where Brentford is doing an exact the perfect thing they could possibly do. Because here's what you're going to ask of him: you're going to have him play. His value isn't going to change that much. So
Hmm.
you're throwing that figure out there. And now what you're asking of him is basically this: prove your valuation, prove to yourself, to the club, a suit for you later in the future. You still have it because right now there's doubt. There's got to be doubts out there in some instances. This is the time that Brentford can capitalize on this. If you really want that 100 million pound number or a number somewhat close to that,
Yep.
this guy needs to play for you. He needs to play for you and show it. Or else I don't think they're going to get any reasonable club that is being run correctly would not bid 100 million pounds for him.
So I like how you said reasonable because I think that between everybody, and I personally don't think this is much of a secret, but I think Chelsea would spend that much money on him
Yeah,
easily.
they
They
need to
did it
sell.
with they did it with oh god, I just blanked. Mudryk first off, but
Yeah,
Enzo Fernandez. They did it with him too. And they
took
could have had him
Caicedo
cheaper,
in
but
there.
that's a whole different story. But I think that, and I feel like if the Spurs didn't just go out and get a loan for Timo Werner, then I think that also would have been a really good fit for the Spurs. But they already went out and got essentially their sub for Human Son or Son Human, excuse me, while he's gone on the Asian Cup. I think, yeah, Brentford have definitely the best case scenario happening for them.
Mhm.
But we're not talking about the bottom six. I think it'd be better off talking about the top six here and their needs. And Chelsea's not in the top six, so we won't get to talk about them. So we'll start off with number one, sitting at the top of the table, Liverpool. Woodsy, I know you're a Liverpool fan for people who don't know, and that's what he's repping right now. What do Liverpool need, if
So
anything?
that's the thing. Like people want to say, oh, well, they're first place. They don't really need much. There's a lot that this club actually needs at the moment. The injuries haven't helped them out.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Trent just going down. He'll be out for a few weeks. But the one position I've been kind of screaming at the top of my lungs for about the last year or so is center back. Obviously, we have Virgil van Dijk. Obviously, we have Kanate. Joe Gomez is another backup. Matip is now out for the year, but and Jarrell Kwanzaa, you could say, is blossomed into something that we never knew we actually had.
Yep.
I gotta say, I've been watching this kid for a couple of years. He is everything that advertised, basically. He was captain of the English team when in the under 19s. He was part of a squad that didn't give up a goal in a European tournament. I mean, the kid is flawless, and he has developed perfectly beside Virgil van Dijk. So I still lean towards center back, left back combo. You look at the big teams in the world right now. Real Madrid, they have guys that can play a combo in a back three, when they're attacking, and then a back four slot into either the center back or left back position. That and City do it as well, obviously with Nathan Ake. This is I think where a lot of the big teams are going that have a lot of possession, because you can throw more numbers forward, and Liverpool basically sit in that realm right now, and that's what they're missing. They can sit there and have two guys sit back, which is what they do. You have the two center backs lay back, the wingers or the fullbacks fly up the pitch, sometimes invert, sometimes go wide, and then basically your defensive midfielder comes back and almost can act like a third center back. If they get a left back center back combo, I'm looking at Piero Hincapié from Leverkusen. Obviously, they don't want to let him go right now. They're one of the second favorite in the Europa League. They're top of the Bundesliga right now. That one's very unrealistic, as much as Liverpool have scouted him and know him, and would probably go for him in a heartbeat, given he's only going to cost you probably about 55, 60 million pounds. Goncalo Inacio is the one that I'm kind of surprised at, because Liverpool could have signed him this summer for 37.5 million pounds. He signed a new contract because nobody picked him up, and now the release clause is 60 million pounds. So basically shot them in the foot for a guy that they've been scouting for 5 or 6 years. Next to the guy he's actually playing next to, Diomande, is the other one that they're kind of looking at as well. But I don't know exactly. I don't think they're actually going to spend money. As much as they could probably use it. This is one thing I've kind of learned over the years, especially with Fenway Sports Group, is they will invest when it's dire and when it's absolutely needed. When the club is at the top and when they're in a position of strength, they do not strengthen. And that is something that, if you look back in history, that's something Liverpool did in the 70s and 80s. It's something Sir Alex Ferguson did with Manchester United in the 90s and early 2000s throughout his time there. And it's something Pep Guardiola does now. And that's the only way you're going to be able to compete at that level. Yep. They're thinking, I think, around transfers, and they're very conservative, and it's understandable, but the thing is they don't miss on a lot of these transfers. Like they know what they're doing, and I trust the process that they're doing it, because they're bringing in solid players every single window. Whether it's Virgil, you look at just this past window, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Endo. Who the hell saw Endo as possibly being the best defensive midfielder in the league right now? He's legitimately right up there, both statistically and just by the eye test. I mean, he's been fantastic the last month and a half, and I'm a guy that hated on him when he came.
Yes, you did.
Quite a bit. I was not happy with that signing, but he's turned out to be an absolute gem for 16 million pounds. So I would lean center back, left back combo. Obviously, defensive midfield is the other big hole that Liverpool desperately need, and then the one that's on everybody's back burner right now is a right winger. With Mo Salah, who knows if he's going to sign this new contract that seems to be on the table, or whether he's going to go to Saudi Arabia, even though that league seems to be shit in the bed right now with a lot of their players wanting out. So maybe that makes him want to sign another contract. Who knows? So that's I think where they're at. I mean, I think right there, 1, 2, 3, those are the needs they're gonna go after over the next couple of windows. So we'll see what happens, but I just want to have the strongest team possible going into the back half of the year, because it's not very often you get a team this good, this ahead of schedule as far as a rebuild goes, and they're competing against this Manchester City team. So
yes,
that's what I'm hoping.
I will
they do.
agree that they definitely went and did a rebuild, and by rebuild I mean they took one section of their team and just upgraded the hell out of it, and that's their midfield, which they needed to do. And I agree with the statement of the Fenway group only doing things when it's dire. And again, I will also agree with you with the fact that teams that are the best are teams that go out and get players that are hungry to win championships. And I believe in that philosophy firmly. Pep does it, like you said. All those people you listed do it to a T. If you don't get players who aren't hungry, then it breeds complacency in your squad. And sometimes it happened. Look, last year, I think there was a little bit of complacency and tiredness in Liverpool. I think there's a little complacency right now with. I think there's a little complacency with City and tiredness. They really didn't go out and get players that were there to upgrade their squad. Obviously, they miss Kevin De Bruyne, who is probably going to be back here relatively soon. He did play in an FA Cup match.
Just played his first game this past weekend.
Yep. He subbed on, got an assist. Yeah, he's dirty. He's dirty. What do you want? I love the guy. I'm a Wolfsburg fan, and I loved him when he was at Wolfsburg, and it bothered the hell out of me that he went to City. So I'll agree with you for Liverpool's needs is that I think it comes down to defense, and I think they're a little stretched thin right now. This was before the Trent injury that I had said defense. So initially I was leaning Robinson, and there's been some talk about Anthony Robinson. I think he's a solid left back who's very pacey, who currently sits on top of interception rates per 90, I think like 2.5 or something like that. So if you're able to cut out teams' counters, which is exactly what he's doing, then you're a critical piece to the opposite counter for your counter. Now, because that now the defending team is transitioning to offense, now has to switch back to defense. So that's a pretty critical stat that he has. I don't have players that I would list, but I think other than Robinson, defense is definitely, I think, a critical thing that Liverpool need to look at. And I also agree with you. I think that they probably won't go out and get anybody, and if they do, it's a loan to buy option or something like that. And they will not tie themselves down to mandatory. Not a lot of teams do to mandatory options, and these are the subtle nuances. I think I still said it wrong again. Don't matter. Of the transfer windows and contracts and all that sort of other things. If you want to learn more, play Football Manager. That's the best I got for you, because I'm not going to go over it now.
The only thing the reason why I'm not big on Robinson, one is his age. There's a lot, like Ryan Ait-Nouri from Wolves is the guy that I've had my eye on too. If I'm looking for a left back. But the thing is, Liverpool have no left backs right now. As far as senior left backs go, in 2 weeks' time, they're going to have 2. So do you really want to go out and get a guy that's a left back when you know you're getting 2 of them back by the Chelsea match? I don't think that's something they are going to do. I think they're going to say, let's wait it out. Let's play Owen Beck. We just brought him back on loan. Let's play the kids and see what they can do instead of spending money. And let's save that money. Because I do think they're going to try to get more years out. They just re-signed Simicast this past summer. I think they can get a couple more, quality years out of Robertson. I think he's one that I would consider possibly, rotating to a left center back position eventually down the road. Not tall at all, but has all the skill set to do what's needed in that position. It's just a matter of, where are we going to look? Like, where are we going to look to invest? How much do we want to invest? And is it the appropriate time? That's what this club, I think, is stuck deciding right now. My personal, I'm all about getting the guys in early. I would rather sign a center back right now. The other guy I'm kind of looking at, I brought up defensive midfielder. There's this kid I've been watching from Argentina for the last year and a half now. And his father was a hell of a player too, but his name is Federico Redondo. You'll hear that name, whether he's playing for Liverpool, Real Madrid, or whoever the hell it may be in the next 3 years. He's 18 years old, defensive midfielder, tall kid, long kid. He's the one, and he's got a release clause of 8 million euros. So like you can go get him right now before he signs a deal. Windows open. That's the type of deal that needs to be done for Liverpool, but they just don't know how to go into that certain market. The South American market, the young, talented player market that is also established. Like this kid's established in the first team. That's what they need to do, and it's the only place they really lack.
So I will say, and I don't know how realistic Football Manager is, and I will say that they are very realistic when it comes to this stuff.
I've actually never played Football Manager.
I'll tell you what.
Is it like Xbox or PS5?
Let me pull up my Steam. I think it might be on Xbox. I can tell you it's on your phone. You can get it on your phone.
People tell me all the time. I know my buddy Adam plays it, but I honestly I've never, swear to God, never played it before. And
go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
For the 2023 video game, I logged 437 hours.
Damn.
437. I don't know what my next closest one is, but that's how much I like this game. And that's how deep this game goes. So when I say I'm not entirely sure, I feel like I'm mostly sure. The problem with the Premier League is that they're only allowed to sign 5 under 21 foreign players for the season. So you have to be very critical of who you go out and buy compared to the Spanish league, the La Liga, where they have B squads, they have their U's, and they have like other teams that they can loan, like that they're affiliated with, that they can loan out to. So like kind of pretty much what City does. So Premier Leagues are a little restricted when it comes to just going out and signing foreign players. They have to be very vigilant and understanding of who they're buying and how much for, so they don't lose money on the player. That's the only thing I really have to say about why teams don't really go out and buy players in foreign leagues, especially in the South American market. There are teams who do that, who specifically look at it. Look at Brighton. They're signing a player who I don't remember his name, but he's an Argentinian kid who's like, Barco.
He's good. He's really good.
Who they're going to go out and try to get, and I don't know if the deal is. I think it's just in the works right now. I don't think it's a done deal.
So it's literally on the verge of being finalized. I think they're going to get him for about 10 million euros.
There you go.
He's a damn good left back, and very versatile too.
We've seen it with Brighton, and I'm sure there's another team who's done it before, but they're the one that sticks out in my head the most. They just have a very good South American scouting squad, and they know that this player is going to translate to the Premier League, and that's a lot of the problem too. Is this is the toughest division for a reason, because it's a very physical, as much as the whistle gets blown for Nancy fouls sometimes. This is a very physical league in which it is demanding in such that you have to play games back to back to back over and over, and it's just very daunting on your body. So they have to be sure that everything is, that they're going to be able, the player is going to be able to handle all of the things that are put forth.
And I'll add to that, actually, because there's, in my opinion, there's 2 teams in the world right now that understand who they are as a club and what their place is, and that's the shitty way to say it. But Brighton is one. Yep. Benfica is the other.
Yep.
They have unbelievable scouts. They will
Yep.
send them wherever they got to send them. Normally, both of those clubs do well in South America, as you've seen. I mean,
Yep.
you look at Brighton; they have Stupinian. They've got the kid that's hurt with the ACL right now, and Ciso. Obviously, McAllister came through there. You go up and down that line. Casado, they scout accordingly. They scout to what they, can we develop this kid? Is this kid going to get us more money in the future? Basically, is what they do. You look at Benfica just this past week. Signed Marcos Leonardo from Brazil. That kid, they just got him for like $20 million. Within the next 2-3 years, he's going to be sold for £100 million. Unreal talent, unreal bargain that they got him for. The kid is a stud, man. Like, yeah, probably to Chelsea. Yeah, no, it's interesting how those two clubs work and how they operate. And I just wish I would love to see a big club operate the way they do. Because, Chelsea's trying this thing where they're trying to go directly now and, get a bunch of these young kids. But the thing is, these kids aren't going to get what they should be getting in Chelsea, because Chelsea has all these, players that are already established in the first team squad, and there's not really much room to break in. Whereas in Brighton and Benfica, there's a lot of room for that talent to break through, a lot more than Chelsea. But you have some other these big squads. I'm looking at Arsenal. I'm looking at Liverpool. I'm looking at Villa. I'm looking at obviously you throw Brighton in there, Newcastle now. These clubs aren't manufactured in a way that is built to disturb the growth of players. Whereas Chelsea is basically the opposite. And they're the one that keeps signing all these young players, Even Man City, we're going to talk about them in a little bit. Just went and signed quite possibly the best number 10, under 20 number 10 in the world in Diablito Echeverri. That kid is unreal. Was the player of the tournament, in my opinion, in the recent World Cup we just had. I think it was the U17s or U20s or something like that. Kid was, exceptional. Had a hat trick in the semifinal, I believe that I think they lost. Roberto Augustine was his teammate as well. Like, there's so many good young talents out there. It's just a matter of, can they go in the right direction? Are these big clubs like Chelsea going to get in the way and disturb their growth? Let's see if something like that happens with one of the clubs that's not that.
So I have two things, and I forgot one of them. So realistically, I have three things. How old do you think Anthony Robinson is?
25.
26. And
Ryan Avery is 22, I think.
Chelsea lost to Middlesbrough in the EFL Cup.
Hayden Hackney, another good young player. Hayden Hackney had the winner. That kid, man, he's one of the better talents coming out of the UK. As far as like midfielders go.
21 years old.
21. He needs a move. He'll be getting a move this summer. I would
as long as Middlesbrough doesn't get promoted, which they might not.
Even if they did, I think they'd have to sell him. He's that good.
Well, anyway, enough about other foreign transfers and people who aren't in the top.
Get excited about transfers.
I know. I don't blame you. Transfers are really fun. You know what else is really fun? Following this page. Please, subscribe, hit that bell, comment. We're on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. I think we're on iHeartRadio, I want to say. So we're out there. Please like and subscribe us. We love you if you do, and we already love you if you already do. On to the second place team currently sitting in second, Aston Villa. I will kick this one off because it's only fair. I put a whole boatload of things that Villa need because I think they're actually one of the teams that need the most. And I think they're going to be also somebody who sits back and they probably might bring in only a player and maybe a loan if they're lucky. They're going to be one of those teams who loan out more and sell. Personally, I think they need to get a flexible striker. And what I mean by flexible striker, I mean somebody who not only plays striker, but can play the wings and kind of do what Ali does essentially, but give Ali a break. I think they also need a right back. Matty Cash doesn't do it for me anymore. or any. Yeah, I think realistically, if I look at that defense, I need a right back and a holding midi, somebody who, in case Bubakar decides to choke hold another player and gets a 3-game suspension for a red card, they need somebody in replacement because the end of Dodonka does not cut it for me. I think they won't go out and buy too much because for people who are new, the winter window is more expensive than the summer window because either first off the length of time that you are allowed in the summer. The winter window is only a month, so then you really need to work hard to get a player in, and it breeds desperate teams and desperate situations to boost up the money value, even though you probably shouldn't be paying for somebody who's Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk, somebody like that. They don't. You end up spending more money than it's worth in the summertime than it is in the wintertime. So they probably might sit back. I think Villa right now are in a good position with chemistry and everything, so they might not buy anybody there. They're going to look to sell. Woodsy, I see that you put fullbacks. You're a me.
Yes, I think this club is a fullback or two away from possibly from locking themselves into a top four. I think they need a little bit of versatility on the wings. I love Moreno. I think Moreno should be. If you could flip him to the right back position, you probably don't need a fullback at all.
Yeah.
But obviously, that kid. I'll be honest with you. There was a goal he scored just sometime during the winter window. I can't remember what it was.
How old do you think he is?
Yeah. How old is he?
Yeah.
Got to be older, I would say. 27?
He's older than that.
Is he really?
He's 29 or 30.
Wow. He reminds me.
He plays like a 26-year-old, though.
He runs just like Andrew Robertson.
Dude, he's
when he scored that goal, I can't remember what game it was. It's bothering me, but he scored a goal. The goal he scored, the celebration, and the way he was running was identical to goals I've seen Andy Robertson score. I don't know where. Yeah. Maybe it was against Aston Villa the one time he scored there. But I was like, I looked over to my buddies as we were watching the game, and we both said the same thing. I go, that looks like Robbo, just the way he runs.
Is it a Prem game you were talking about?
I think it was. It had to be a Prem game.
Brentford?
Yes.
That's when he scored.
Yes. And they came back to win that game, right? Was it 2-1? Yeah, it was.
I don't know if he was the winning goal, but yeah,
he might have been the tying goal late on. But yeah, he's a hell of a player. But I still think, obviously, you mentioned Matty Cash. He's a liability in my opinion.
Such a good case.
I don't think the thing is he should be pushed into midfield.
I agree.
I think he should be pushed into like that right midfield position. I'm not quite sure the formation you guys play. Is it a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3?
I don't either. It just works.
Because I mean, with Luis and Boubacar Kamara playing in the same
double pivot,
lineup,
yeah.
Clearly, that's got to be a double pivot there, or maybe a 4-4-2 something. And I just don't think I don't think defensively he's that good. I think he's a liability in that department. Going forward, he's okay. He's got his moments. Obviously, he scored a winner for you guys, or deflected winner, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Right off the butt.
Week.
That was a butt goal.
Yeah. I think he's not quite the caliber you need to push forward.
He's a substitute. You could say it. He's a substitute. And there's nothing wrong with that. You still get to be a part of the squad. You still get to win trophies if you're on. He's just a substitute, and we need to get better in that position, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of ties Villa have are to Frimpong, and it's not going to happen this window because he has a release clause that's starting in the summer for 35 million euros. There is no way Villa is going to pay the 40-50 million that Leverkusen want when you could just sit there and wait for the summer. And there you go. Now you got an exceptional player for 35 million.
The thing is, though, I think that with that clause coming down, that also draws in more teams.
Whatever.
That would draw in.
Look,
I mean, look at Arsenal. Arsenal could do with that. 35 million, that's a piece of cake business for them.
Well,
They need a real right back because Ben White needs to get out of the tanning booth. He's way too greasy.
Would it really be reasonable for them though? We might as well. Honestly, nope. They're sitting fourth. Sorry, can't jump into them. I wanted to jump into that real quick, but financial fair play is going to catch up to them, and they're gonna have to sell players, and they're gonna have. I'm talking about Arsenal now. They're going to have. They're not going to be able to buy somebody like that right away. They're going to have to do some stuff, jump through some hoops, and then do that sort of thing. But
I would even add on to what you're saying here too, and this goes back to Villa. I think Villa need more of an under the radar signing than a big name. I think that's the way they need to go because they need, in my opinion, they need somebody that is established but is also young enough that they can also build upon and grow his game a little bit more. I could see them going for a kid from maybe South America, something like that. I honestly think they might look at Molina from Atletico Madrid. He kind of fits that mold. He's kind of very decent defensively, can go forward a little bit, has good pace to him. A little bit younger player. That's the type of player I think they, maybe not directly him, but that's the style of player I think that Villa gets. That Villa brings that guy in, slots him right into that right hand side, and you got a defense that's locked down even without Tyrone Mings. It's one of those signings where once that position is locked down and good, and now you have a decent backup in Matty Cash. That's a team that can keep you out of goal, can counter you, and can score. They can really score.
I have a question for you.
Shoot.
You play video games?
Yeah, every now and then. Yeah.
You play FIFA?
Oh yeah, I play FIFA.
Okay. I'll get to the point. When do you start transferring and buying players? What age? What age do you transfer out players?
Transfer out?
Yep. Just curious.
Either when they're young or old. anything in between in the prime, I usually don't touch.
I will tell you personally, I sell them around 27 to 29. That is my ballpark that I start selling players. It is about your max value in a video game. So, when you say they need to bring in a young player, Villa, I agree and disagree at the same time. Because Moreno was 29 when he came in the winter window last year. He's 30 now. Yes, it's a year older. However, he's also more experienced. He knows what he's doing. He already knows or has. How do I want to put this? Players who are older already have their foundation set. So there's no education other than what your coaching staff wants to have you to do. I'm okay now at this point with bringing in a player who's 29 to 32 to play positions if they are exceptionally good at those positions. So if it means that Villa are able to lock down right back for a couple of years and still be able to bring on Matty Cash at the 70th minute or whatever to be able to just run up and down, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Just give me 60 to 70 minutes a match and keep goals out. I'm okay. That's okay. And that's how I feel at this point. I'm okay with if you're in the right position on the table personally, it matters where you sit and your financial situation. I'm okay with getting older players. Where we have to take, I personally, and many people are like this, have to take out the fact that you aren't a dead player once you hit 29. You know what I mean? You're still a viable player. So there's nothing wrong with somebody who to get older and who's on the older side and plays really well. I'm okay with it.
And I think, a lot of people think, Villa might not shop in the Premier League. They might look at La Liga. They might look at, Germany. I think the league to really pay attention now with younger players and outgoings and stuff like that is France. France has, and you look at the Aston Villa squad. They've got some pretty darn good players that came through there and that they've signed recently that have been young French talents that have developed over the years. I mean, back when he was coming through, I mean, Luca Digne was one of the best probably young talents coming through. Obviously didn't pan out as well for him. Has had his ups and downs. But I look at a lot of the French clubs right now. You look at Lille with their center backs. You look at Lens with the players they had. They got, one of their center backs is leaving for Bayern Munich, it looks like, and Kevin Danso. So I think France is the hidden gem of a market right now because you've got a lot of teams that are kind of meh. They're not really going to blow you away. It's not a really fun league to watch, but the players in the league,
Farmers League,
you can find a lot of gems. It's actually, I think it's closer to Portugal than it is to obviously a La Liga or something like that. It's closer to a Portugal. You're going to find a lot of young, really talented players that are going to be able to translate to other leagues really, really well.
Don't disagree.
That market alone, you look at Malo Gusto came from there. He was at, I believe he's at Strasbourg. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think that's that's the market that I could see Villa go down. They've Moussa Diaby, another French young player that has come through, and now he's playing fantastic football right now for Villa. That's the market I would look into, is the French market.
Moving on to our number 3 team, sitting at third, City. What do you think that they need?
Nothing. No, I need them to sell every single player on that squad. If I'm being serious,
for half price.
They need I think they need a true left back. I think the Gvardiol experiment out there isn't quite working out to the best of what they've planned. Obviously, he's capable of doing the job, but not to the ability that I think is required by Pep Guardiola.
He might as well be playing. Him and Undogi are the 2 defenders that I find the most forward in every match. Watch a Spurs match and watch a City match, and just watch those 2 players. You will find them carrying the ball into the box, and if not into the box, they will be in the 6-yard box, especially Undogi, who does that. City rely on Gvardiol to really set up their crosses more than anything. But I agree with you, definitely. Gvardiol is not a left back. He could play the John Stones experiment. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea for them. But they still need a center back, and they still need a left back. And
Gvardiol is the most expensive center back in world football.
Well, do you
why do you buy a center back if you don't play him there? That's my whole thing. Like you spent money on left backs here or there. One of them went to court for allegations and stuff like that.
And Mendy is who he's talking about.
Yeah, so it's not like they've spent so much money on their defense, and yet it still comes back to bite them in certain areas. And I don't understand how you can spend that amount of money on one player who you're basically buying on potential. Because, if we're going off of what he's actually accomplished, he hasn't really accomplished that much. Is he good? Yes. Is he?
That's fair.
No. £100 million good? No, he's not. That's why that's the only reason why you can see City as a team that would buy him. You look at all the clubs that needed center backs that could have used him, that actually have decent money. They weren't touching him. So yeah. I think it's definitely it's the whole Pep Guardiola, mind freak type deal. He needs to actually play these guys. He doesn't. He over experiments, in my opinion, a lot of times. He did it with, when Nathan Ake got there. Now Nathan Ake actually has a role and has developed into his role. This kid is a center back, man. Like, he is a center back. Yes, he's left-footed, so you can play him out wider. But this kid he moves like a center back. He runs like a center back. He passes like a deep lying playmaker almost. A la Virgil van Dijk, center backs like that. We just lost Franz Beckenbauer yesterday. I mean, that's the type of footwork he has that he can develop into even further. I'm not comparing. Believe me, I'm not comparing. I'm just saying
it's still quite.
Yeah,
still ways to go.
This is the type of ability that this kid can possess, and yet I feel like every time I look, he's being hindered by where he's playing. You're not developing this kid even further. You basically just threw out £100 million for a guy you're going to be playing out of position. I find it ridiculous. And to be honest with you, Ruben Diaz has been absolute crap this year, and he should be playing in the center back position ahead of Ruben Diaz. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, he's been difficult to watch. Ruben Diaz, anyway. Honestly, that whole City defense has been difficult to watch. They're just so disorganized, and it's a weird thing to see. And we'll see what happens when De Bruyne actually gets starts and starts playing, and having Rodri and De Bruyne and having that transition from defense to midfield to attacking play up top. So we'll see if that's been their problem, or if their problem is really defense and they decide to spend $600 million again next summer, which they've done before in previous windows, and we'll see what happens there. I agree. I also said fullbacks, that not even just the left back. They need Kyle Walker's getting old, and it's starting to show. I think that might have been the biggest. Not signing Gundogan back, keeping what's his name? Bernardo Silva, and keeping Kyle Walker. I think were the three biggest mistakes that City made.
I don't know about the Bernardo one. He's been pretty good this year.
I think he's just all flash. I really don't see anything in him.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Bernardo Silva. I think of him as, well, I honestly don't have a comparison right now. Raheem Sterling-esque. All flash, no pan. That's it.
You're not going to like my team of the year.
Sorry. That's okay.
Of the year so far, whatever it is.
Yeah, yes, team of the year so far. Mid-season team.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think fullbacks are an issue for City, and they're not being able to transition is a problem for them too. Also, a problem Arsenal have sitting fourth currently. I'm just going to say it. We all know it. It's attacking. It's goal scoring. That's their problem right now. Eddie Nketiah is not. I don't want to say it because it's Rhett saying. I'll just say it because I think it's funny. But all fur coat, no trousers. He's just kind of. He's a backup. He's a serviceable sub, and I think Jesus being injured and getting a little older is a bit of a problem. Being able to not counterpress on the defense, transitioning defense, trying to be able to press the other team, and getting turnovers higher up the pitch is a problem. And he's not quite what he was last year, and being able to distribute the ball to the wings like Saka and Martinelli, and they're not scoring as much as they used to either. I think this whole entire team is having a West Ham this season. Like they're obviously much better than West Ham. I will say I'm not comparing them to West Ham. I'm just comparing them to the ability of scoring, and that was what West Ham's issue was last year. They could not score, and they almost, well, I wouldn't say they almost got relegated, but they were near the bottom. I think a striker, goal scorer. Somebody needs to come in and put the ball in the back of the net. I know you feel the same because I see the list. There's nothing more that needs to be said, honestly, right?
I think you're spot on. I definitely a striker is needed. I think a lot of their issues right now are, everybody on that team, that forward line is one dimensional. When Saka and Martinelli get the ball, you know what they're going to do.
They're going to cut inside,
and you know how to defend them. Basically, I mean, You all right? I'm gonna go back to the Liverpool Arsenal match from this past weekend in the FA Cup. There was a moment, and I think he actually said it in an interview, where Connor Bradley came on to play right back, and they moved Trent into a central defensive role. And Trent basically goes over to Bradley and goes, "Hey, Martinelli, when he gets the ball, push him inside. I'll cover. We'll basically get the ball out of his feet." 3 times in the last 10 minutes that happened. That happened. It was unreal. And I would say that probably showed again. And Saka's the same thing. Saka is very one-dimensional right now. There's not much that when the ball gets to their feet, the defense knows what they need to do. They collapse a certain way that they need to do that. And it's pretty easy to shut them down. The guy in the middle, doesn't matter who the hell it is, we know he's not going to score. It's at the point where opposition teams are not as, how do I put this? They're not as inept to
scared.
The ability of who's in the middle there. Eddie Nketiah, not the greatest striker. He's just not. Gabriel Jesus is, in my opinion, he's always been overrated. I think just because he's Brazilian, people rate him, but he's crap. You look at that whole forward line. Except for the front three, Gabriel, Saka, and Jesus. Those 3 have less goals combined than Mohamed Salah. Combined.
How many goals is that? I'm just curious because I would.
Salah's got 14. I believe they have 12.
Damn it! I think Ali has 11 or something like that.
So right? I mean, but look at they're not getting goals out of those guys. And if you look at even this a lot of the goals that Saka is getting this year are pens. A lot of his, not the majority, but a lot of them are pens. And so he's not being able to create when the ball is in play. He's not being able to do what he did the last couple of years. I think he's definitely fallen off. And to be honest with you, I think it comes down to the tactics because they're so one-dimensional. And the striker is not, doesn't have that killer mentality.
I have one thing. I think it comes down to last year. I know teams packed them in, but I think they're packing them in differently. And I'll just quickly, Villa have the same problem. When teams pack them in, they have a hard time breaking down defenses. It feels the same way with Arsenal as well. Teams are packing them in, and they're just having a harder time breaking them down. And they're not getting the goals or the creativity from the midfield like they were last season. I think that's a little bit of the problem too. And don't get me wrong, Martinelli, when he's a goal scorer, he could put it in the back of the net. Same with Saka, and Jesus he's serviceable. He'll put it in the back of the net as well, but he needs a little bit more help. I think their midfield is the issue where they're not getting enough creativity to break down those defenses too. I think
you're right, but the thing is, why would you spend 65 million on Kai Havertz when you have? They're playing Declan Rice out of position. They want him to be a number 8. The guy's probably a 6. I think they need to stop with that experiment. Whatever Arteta's trying to do. I mean, he's one of those guys. He'll get you a goal every now and then. He's not going to get you winners. I mean, he's obviously been pushed forward at the end of games, which we get. But
yeah,
it's unreal where they're trying to make something out of nothing that they don't. They have all these pieces basically that are bought to play a certain role, and they will move him and try to tweak him because he's trying to basically be Pep Guardiola. That's what he wants to be. He's a wannabe Pep, and that's just what Arteta is right now. And to be honest, yes, you need to keep Arteta. There's a lot of people on social media and stuff like that saying Arteta out. You'd be stupid to get rid of him right now.
Sour.
Yeah. Yeah, I think is he part of the problem right now? Absolutely, 100%. But he's also going to be the part that's going to probably fix that.
Yep.
Because right now, I don't think he has a grip on how to play this team, and he they keep saying how they really desperately need a striker. Even given the opportunities they've had, a lot of those opportunities aren't falling to the striker. They're falling to your wingers. Your guys that you expect and they put on pedestals now and compare them to the better ones in the league. I just don't think they're quite there. I don't think Saka is not Mohamed Salah, and Gabriel Martinelli is not to be honest with you, he's not Phil Foden. Phil Foden can score, can play on both wings. I think they really need to go back to the basics. What are you good at? You're good at defending. Counterattack. Go to counterattack. Give the other team possession. Make them do something. Make them screw up. He needs to get out of this whole I want to be Pep Guardiola type mindset, because he's basically trying to be Pep with hair. That's what he is.
Would you rather be Arteta or Pep right now?
Oh, absolutely Pep Guardiola.
I'm just saying, like, in this season. I'm not saying overall career or anything like that. I'm just saying this season.
Still okay. Pep. I mean, Pep by miles. I think Pep knows knows how to change a system on a whim. Mikel Arteta cannot make an in-game decision to save his life. Jurgen Klopp basically masterclassed this thing on Sunday. Knew what they were going to do. First half, went out with an experiment. Let's see how we play against them. Let's give them possession a little bit. And Liverpool got lucky in the first half. They really did. They should have been down 2-3-0. Mm-hmm. You look at the second half, completely different game, and that's because Klopp knew how to fix it. Mikel Arteta didn't have a single answer in the second half. Didn't know how to change it up. Couldn't change it with subs. Couldn't change it with formation. Tried to change it with moving guys centrally, pushing guys up the pitch. Couldn't do it. Didn't know how to break a team down like that. And Pep Guardiola can. And it's not only through formation, but through rotation and through putting guys in the right situations at the right time. That's why we see Rodri come up with so many, winning goals every now and then,
Yep. Two things. I would be Arteta because then I have gray hair. Great hair, not gray hair. And two, fudge. It just dropped out of my head. Oh, well, I'm just going to say I'm Arteta with gray hair. That's the reason I would stick with that. Yeah, Arsenal need a striker. They need a goal scorer. Spurs, who sit currently 5th in a Europa League position. I think this is interesting because they just got Mickey Van de Ven back. I still think they need defensive players because Romero is overrated and he's a head case.
He actually just picked up a yellow card 5 seconds ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Just for breathing.
Yeah, exactly. I think a defense, and unfortunately, I did this before the Timo Werner thing, a goal scorer. They need somebody to help. Two things. Okay, so they either need a goal scorer and keep. They need to keep either Son up top, or get a goal scorer and keep Son out in the wide. That's either one of those possibilities are fine. In which case, then they need to get a winger to then support Son. One of those two combinations need to happen. I think that they're close, Spurs, and it's if you're an Arsenal fan, it's unfortunate to say, or even a London fan. Unfortunate to say, sorry. They are they're looking pretty solid, and the fact that they haven't had Maddison on the pitch too. And they've still been able to produce a 5th spot halfway through the season is pretty solid, considering that Ange really wasn't out there to be attacking top 4. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, we knew
they lost Harry Kane. Did you really think that they're going to be sitting attacking for top 4?
No, I mean we knew his tactics coming in. I didn't realize he was as as
aggressive,
unwilling to change his tactics when the situation arises. Mm-hmm. So I'm a bit surprised in that. He's very it's my way or the highway type deal as far as tactics go.
I want to bring this up real quick before.
Yeah.
For that point, Rhett had made a good point, and I know what you're referring to. And it was when they went down 2 men during I forget the team that they were playing against.
Chelsea, I think.
Okay, so they went down 2 men in the Chelsea match. He brought up the point in which, why would you change what you know for your players? Like, they already know to high press. They already know to stay at the line. Pack it in and everything. The attacking third. Then sit back, absorb pressure. You're already down 2 goals. What else do you got to lose? That was his kind of
Goal
point.
differential
Yes, okay, that
for
does.
fourth and
That's
fifth.
fair. That's a fair
That
point.
could be huge.
Yep. No, you absolutely fair point. And I don't have a rebuttal or retort on that. But that's exactly what his statement was.
But and I
Not
would even
per
add to
quote.
that, like they literally had a blueprint 2 weeks prior to that match when Liverpool went down 2 men and Liverpool
Yeah.
held them to. I mean, let's be honest with you. That game had a lot of controversy
You're not
surrounded by
thinking.
it.
Andrew's
But
not thinking of that mid game.
but I'm
He's
just
like,
saying if you're looking at if you have a blueprint to how to defend with 9 men, that's the game right there. They did it for
who's gonna tell him that?
45
Who's
minutes.
gonna remember that?
He should. He played. He was on the sideline. He was there. It's probably the pound for pound best manager in the world. Told him how to do it.
Speaking of manager, I totally forgot how a manager of the season, but that's a different thing. I already know who it is.
We can add that later. I already know mine.
All right, same. Anyway, Spurs. What?
Yes,
Goal scorers and defense is what I said. How do you
I'd
feel?
go center back. I'd go center.
Center back.
They're looking at Dragusin or whatever his name is from
Yep.
I think it's Genoa. That's a solid signing right there. If you can get him for 20 million, 25, whatever it is, get him.
Yeah, I don't know. That's fair. I agree. I think center back's not a bad position for them to upgrade in. And the super surprise here is West Ham. Who thought West Ham during halfway through the season would be sitting sixth? They took their Declan Rice money and doubled down and said, "Let me get me players that will get me in the top 10." And they said, "How about 6? 6 sounds good." How about you? What are you feeling? I like what you had put in the notes here.
Okay, so I've had this like running thing about West Ham for probably the last 3 years now, and it still continues to hold up really well to this day.
Yeah.
They, for some reason, have, as far as all top half of the table teams go, they collectively always have the worst group of center backs every single year. Every single year.
Yeah.
They just got rid of Thilo Kehrer, who, in my opinion, was probably one of their worst signings in their club's history. I would go that far. Came from PSG, had a lot of hype around him. Obviously, when he was at PSG, clearly wasn't good there. So they brought him in, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to start you from day one." The dude had a red card, I think, in his debut, and basically was crap from there on. He had more red cards and own goals combined, I think, than he did goals scored or goal contributions, I think, in general. So he was absolutely horrendous. And now you look at, they have an aging Angelo Ogbonna. They have they just got rid of Dawson, a year ago, maybe? A little over a year ago. Greg Dawson now plays for Wolves, I believe.
Wolves.
They've got Konstantinos Mavropanos there, who I think is trying to, every match seems to be trying to one up what Thilo Kehrer did as far as being crap. And he just flat out is. Mavropanos is ex-Arsenal guy, obviously scored the winner against Arsenal, so that was kind of neat. But I can't grasp my head around how this team is going to be in the top 8, top 9 with center backs like this. As a unit, they're not the greatest defensively. They're going to give up shots. They give up 34 somehow, 35 against Arsenal, still kept them out, which was unbelievable. I mean, Arsenal was awful on that day. I mean, I don't think they really deserved to get a point or a win out of that anyway, but to keep those guys with those chances out of goal, crazy day. But I still think the amount of chances they're giving up, I mean, look at that. The next match after those guys played Arsenal, they gave up 5. That's how wishy-washy and inconsistent these guys are. They need a center back. They need 2 center backs, possibly a third. And you could throw a fullback in there as well. A left back would be pretty good for them as well. I think midfield-wise, I think they're pretty good. I think they're okay there. Obviously, they've always, missed the striker. Danny Ings was never going to be that. Michael Antonio isn't that. they could always go with a striker. So I mean, there's your other option. But for me, that club is a counterattacking club as is. Get center backs that can defend, and you're going to win a lot more games. You're going to have a lot more points. I mean, they bring in 2 decent quality center backs. They're probably going to be 10 points better off at the end of the year than what they are now.
I don't disagree with that. I think that's a good assessment of West Ham. Agard and Zuma. Well, Agard is just not great, personally. I think he's a cheapie signing who, actually, I don't know how much he signed for, but he has not panned out as well. And Zuma's really been the only mainstay who's been all right.
And those guys
even
are
though
injured
he hits
all the
caps.
time.
What's that?
Those guys are usually injured all the time too.
There's that problem as well. I think you're right. I think defense. I did not put defense. Actually, this is one of the few ones that I didn't. I said creative playmaker, but I feel like you're also right. Definitely with a striker and a center back. Center backs would definitely help that squad out better and gain them more points, whether it be draws or seeing out games. I say creative playmaker because whatever happens to Paqueta, whether it's suspension or he gets sold, then they need to replace him. And I think maybe it's the wrong thing to say for this window, and your assessment is the better assessment. But to be able to bring somebody in, get them involved with the squad, and then be able to involved with the squad for the rest of the season is all I really need to say is probably a really good one-up for that squad and being able to get goals, get mauled by dogs here, and being able to transition from defense to offense and on the counter, and that's what Paqueta does really well. He's a good defender and he's a good transition player. So I think somebody looking like that would be a good fit for West Ham as well.
I gotta agree. I mean, obviously, what happens with Paqueta is probably the big catalyst for that. I mean, they brought in. Sure. You did bring in Mohamed Kudus, who can play as a 10 at times. They've got a young striker who I think can play like a false 9, 10 at times with Mubama. Good young player there. I think they just need to give him a little bit more opportunities.
Yeah.
But I agree. It comes down to.
Sorry about that. We had some technical difficulties. Woodsy was not able to finish the recording. Something with StreamYard wouldn't allow him to continue with audio. He would hear me, but I wouldn't be able to hear him. We've checked all the technical stuff. It's StreamYard's fault at this point. To continue what he was trying to say, he was trying to say that West Ham were in search of a striker, whether it be in-house or out-house. So we are just going to move on to our starting 11s. I'm just going to read off what he had for his starting 11s for the midway through the season. He had Alisson Becker as his starting goalkeeper. He had Trent Alexander-Arnold. He had Saliba, Virgil van Dijk as his center backs, and Nathan Ake playing as his left back. Moving into the midfield, he had Rodri, Bernardo Silva, which I just crapped on earlier in the stream. So I that's what he was alluding to prior to that before we lost connection with him. Phil Foden, he's got a lot of City players on here. City players, it is a player-based best of 11. Foden has been pretty good this season, so fair to say that he should be on there. Mo Salah is on there. He should be on there every year unless he's got an injury or otherwise. Son has had an exceptional season as well this year, and starting up top for that squad is Dom Solanke. His honorable mentions are Erling Haaland, Ollie Watkins, Cole Palmer, João Palhinha, Anthony Robinson, I presume. Sorry, he's obviously not on right now. At this point, it's just me. I'm assuming it's Anthony Robinson. Vicario, Szoboszlai, Michael Olise, Jeremy Doku, I'm assuming Douglas Luiz. I personally think it should be Douglas Luiz for starting, but we'll get to that point in a moment. Declan Rice, John McGinn, and Bowen. Moving on to mine. Starting 11. I don't have Rets, unfortunately. I will post that to social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Check it out there. I'll have everybody starting 11s midway through. I ended up having Becker as well. He's had a good season. I think it's fair to say that he deserves to be in this mid season starting 11. I had Anthony Robinson starting out there, Virgil van Dijk as well, Saliba as well, and Trent all start for my defense. Midfield is Douglas Luiz. I think he's had an exceptional season, and I think it's been overlooked personally. He's been the cog in that wheel. But that's just because I watch them a lot, and maybe there's a little bit of hubris, not hubris, but I can't think of the right word. There's a little bit of favoritism. That's the word. I have Declan Rice in there as well. I think he's been a very bright spot for that Arsenal squad, and I think that he's what they kind of needed as far as a holding midfielder and being able to distribute the ball out to the wings. And Rodri as well, because clearly we can see when City don't have Rodri, then City are in shambles. They aren't quite the same team. For my forwards, I have Son as well. I have Salah as well. And starting for me is Watkins. I think he's been an exceptional player. I think all of these starting top players and all the people that have been listed for the starting squad have been exceptional players. My honorable mentions are Matthias Cunha for the Wolves. I think he's picked up really well. Ethan Pinnock, I'm high on him personally. I think he's a good player. I don't think the last 5 losses that his team have hit are solely his. I think he's a really good player. Dom Solanke makes my honorable mentions as well. He started off slow and he's been picking up really well. He's been really hot. Pedro Porro makes my honorable mentions. He is very much somebody who's always trouncing ahead and being involved in that attack for that Spurs squad, and he's somebody who's able to do combinations really well with the players that he tags along with on the outside, whether it be Son or Brendan Johnson or Kulusevski. Vicario makes my honorable mentions as well, that he's been much better than Hugo Lloris. There's no doubt about that. And he's definitely better than Ben Foster, who they had to deal with last season. Bowen makes my honorable mention. He's been extremely good too. It's hard to say if he could have made my starting 11, but it's difficult. Obviously, it's difficult, but I think Son and Salah have been better, and Ali is an out and out personally. So he just makes my bench squad. And Areola for West Ham has been extremely good as well, just not good enough to beat out Becker. That rounds out our starting 11s. This also rounds out the rest of Swinging at Shins. So if you have hung around this long, we appreciate you. If you like, subscribe. We just appreciate you in general. But if you could also take that extra mile, we would greatly appreciate it to like and subscribe, follow, find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram, Spotify. Please hit that 5-star rating if you think we're deserving of that. Personally, I think we are. I think we're good. I mean, we're good, but I believe in what you guys believe in, and if we think we need to be better, then please comment and tell us what we could do better. Find us out there. Peace. Well, guys, that was an episode of Swinging at Shins. We appreciate you for coming out and listening to us. If you guys want to hear or see more, we have links in the description below. We hope to hear from you soon and hear more about what you have to say.